2, bring down my 4. 4 goes into 24 6 times. So 4 divided by 144 divided by 4 is 36. So this will be 36 equals 36, which is a true statement. Therefore, I know my answer is correct. So now we've done addition, we've done subtraction. That was division. Let's try one with multiplication. All right, for this last example, we're going to say 6x is equal to 48. Now 6x, remember when the number is right next to the variable, that's multiplication. And also as a review, this number is the coefficient, the letter is the variable. So this is coefficient is 6, x is the variable. Just a quick review. But this is multiplication. 6 times x will give me 6x. So I have first identify the variable, x. Now I'm going to isolate the variable by doing the opposite operation. This is 6 times x, so the opposite operation is division. The opposite of multiply is divide. So I'm going to take my 6x and I'm going to divide it by 6. Now remember, I'm trying to get x alone, isolate it, so I'm going to divide by the same number I'm trying to get rid of. I'm trying to get rid of 6, so I'm going to divide by 6. Now remember, the next step, since I divided by 6 on the left side of the equation, I must go to my right side, take my 48 and divide it by 6. So now I have 6 divided by 6 is 1. So they're going to cancel each other out, and we don't have to write 1x. We did that earlier when we talked about variables. You don't have to write 1x. It's just x is equal to 48 divided by 6 is 8. So we said that 6x equals 46, x would be equal to 8. Let's check and see. Rewrite the equation, 6x equals 48. Now you evaluate the equation by substituting in the 8 where we see x. So it'll be 6 times 8 equals 48. Then we do our multiplication. We know that 6 times 8 is 48. And since 48 does equal 48, it checks out and we know that we are correct. That is how you solve equations every time. Adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, you do the same steps each time. You isolate the variable, you identify the variable, then you isolate the variable by doing the opposite operation, and then make sure you do the same operation or the same adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing on each side of the equation every time. And you'll be able to solve equations easily. This is going to take repetition, but once you start doing it, once you get it, the rest is going to be easy. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to give you some time to do some problems of your own. I'm going to give you 4 problems. You're going to have 30 seconds to complete each problem. On the CRCT, it's a time test. You don't have all day to take these tests, so you need to be able to do them quickly. So we're going to start practicing that now. I'm going to give you 4 problems to do, and I'm going to give you 30 seconds each to solve the problems. All right, so you should have your paper ready. You should have been writing along with me. Clear your space. Let's get ready to do number 1. Here's our first problem. 30 plus n equals 92. Again, that's 30 plus n equals 92. You have 30 seconds. Go. Stop. That's 30. So what's the answer? What'd you come up with? How many of you think you got it right? Did you have time to check it? Were you that quick? Well, let's see. We had 30 plus n equals 92. First, we're going to identify our variable, which is n. Our variable is n. So next, we need to isolate our variable by doing the opposite operation. Now, what's on this same side of the equal sign with the n? The 30. So we need to get rid of the 30. So we need to do the opposite operation. Now, one common mistake. Don't look at this and say it's addition, because this addition sign is for the n. This is a positive plus n. Okay? You always look for the operation in front of the number or the variable. What's in front of this 30? There's nothing there. And remember our rules. If there's nothing there, then we're going to treat it as positive. So if that's positive, the opposite is going to be, and the positive would be like plus. So the opposite would be negative, so we're going to subtract 30. And since we subtracted 30 from the left side of the equation, we must subtract 30 from the right side of the equation. The 30s will cancel out. 30 minus 30 is 0, which will just leave my n is equal to, and we can hit our scratch sheet of paper, 92 minus 30. 2 minus 0 is 2. 9 minus 3 is 6, is equal to 62. So we came up with n is equal to 62. So now we're going to quickly check that. Write the equation again. 30 plus n equals 92. Then I have 30 plus, we'll substitute the 62 in for the n. We'll have 30 plus 62 equals 92. And when we add 30 and 62, we have 92 equals 92. It's a true statement, so the answer is correct. So the answer to 30 plus n equals 92 was n is equal to 62. How many of you got it right? Now, I know that was a quick 30 seconds, so you may not have time to check it, but that's what we want you to be able to do. Solve these problems and check them quickly. But as long as you did it within that 30 seconds and got it correct, you're on the right track. If not, let's try it again. All right, our second sample problem is going to be 12 is equal to t plus 9. Again, that's 12 is equal to t plus 9. Ready? Go. Time. Okay, we have the problem 12 equals t plus 9. That's our equation. First step is to identify the variable, which is t. Your variable is t. Now we need to isolate the variable by doing the opposite operation. We need to get rid of the 9. That's plus 9, so we're going to subtract 9. And remember, we're going to have to subtract it from each side. So you subtract 9 from both sides. These 9s, 9 minus 9 is 0, will cancel out. Leaves me t is equal to 12 minus 9 is 3. So we said that 3 is equal to t, or t is equal to 3. So now we're going to check that. We go back, rewrite the problem. 12 is equal to t plus 9. That was our rewritten problem. So let's go back and substitute in. We said t is equal to 3, so let's substitute the 3 for the t. So now we have 12 is equal to 3 plus 9. 3 plus 9 will bring down our 12, and we'll say 3 plus 9, which is equal to 12. So 12 equals 12 is a true statement, so our answer was correct. T was equal to 3. Now let's try a couple with multiplication and division. Let's start off with the multiplication. Our third example is going to be 9x is equal to 72. 9x is equal to 72. 30 seconds. Go. right, here we had 9x is equal to 72. Step 1, identify my variable, x. My variable is x. So I need to isolate my variable by doing the opposite operation. Well, first, what number do I need to get rid of? What's on the same side of the equal sign with the x I need to get rid of? The 9. I need to get rid of the 9, so I need to isolate my variable by getting rid of the 9. I'll do that by doing the opposite operation. This is 9 times x, so the opposite operation will be division. So I'll have 9x divided by 9 is equal to, and I'll bring my 72 down, and I have to do the same thing to this side that I did to the left side, so I'm going to divide it by 9. Then I'm left as 9 divided by 9 is going to leave me 1, so I got 1x, so we'll just put the x is equal to 72 divided by 9 is 8. So I have x is equal to 8. So now let's go and check that and see if it works. I've got 9x equals 72. Now I'm going to substitute in my 8 for x. So it'll be 9 times 8 is equal to 72. And 9 times 8 is 72. So 72 does equal 72. That's a true statement. That's correct. Okay, for our final example, let's use c divided by 10 is equal to 3,640. C divided by 10 is equal to 3,640. Go. Time. Okay, here we had c divided by 10 equals 3,640. Same steps. Identify the variable, step 1. Our variable is c. So now we need to isolate the variable by getting rid of whatever's on that same side with it. We have a 10. So we'll get rid of the 10 by doing the opposite operation. The opposite of division, because this is c divided by 10, is what? Multiplication. And we're going to multiply by what? We're trying to get rid of the 10, so we'll multiply by 10. So I have c divided by 10 times 10 is equal to 3,640 times 10. Now, on our left side, the 10s will cancel each other out, which leaves me c is equal to 3,640 times 10. Now, you can go to your scratch sheet of paper and write out 3,640 times 10 and do your multiplication, or you can recall the base 10 rules. If we multiply by a base of 10, you just add the zeros. So here I got 3,640 times 10, that's 1 0. It's going to be 3,640, and we add 1 0 because it's 10. That gives me 36,400. So your answer would be C is equal to 36,400. Is it right? Let's check it and see. I've got C divided by 10 equals 3,640. And here we said C was 36,400. We have that divided by 10 equals 3,640. Now again, we can go to our scratch sheet of paper and take 36,400 and divide it by 10 and go through the motions of long division, or we can pull up our base 10 rules. When I said we multiplied by 10, we added a 0. If I multiplied by 100, I would have added 2 zeros. Multiplied by 1,000, I would add it 3 zeros. Well, we can just do the reverse in division. If we're dividing by 10, we're going to take away a 0. If we're dividing by 100, take away 2. Because we're doing base 10s. I have 0 here, 0 there. I took away my zeros. 3,640 over 1, which is 3,640, equals 3,640. See, your elementary school base 10 rules have come back to help you. It all builds on itself. Everything you learn in math helps you later on. All right? How many of you got that right? Wasn't that difficult when you know what to do? And after practicing, you'll know what to do most of the time. All right, so let's review what we did today. What did we learn? We learned that equations, the base for equations is to keep it balanced. We need to keep an equation balanced in order to solve it. We use basketball, and we can actually even talk about like the scales. If I have scales, they're balanced. If I add some to each side, I have 2 over here, 1 over here. It falls out of balance. So I need to add 1 so it's the same on both sides. If I want to add, if I add 1 to one side, in order for it to keep balance, I need to add another to the other side to keep it balanced. Same thing, if I take away 1 from one side, it falls out of balance, but I take away the same from the other side, and it's balanced again. That's the concept you must keep in mind when dealing with equations. Do the same thing to each side. And the rest was just the steps. You identify your variable. You isolate your variable by doing the opposite operation. And whatever you do to one side, you do the same to the other. Okay, that wraps it up for this episode. Your teacher's now going to hand out to you your activity number 1 for equations. You got 5 problems on there. Remember, take your time, do the steps. Repetition is key here. Do the steps, solve the equation. All right, that's it. I'm looking forward to see you again on the next episode of The Math Doctor.
Let me tell you a story you may not have heard about an African slave who was no amateur. He was a math wizard with a great nickname, the Virginia Calculator, which brought him fame. Thomas Fuller, great math formulator. Thomas Fuller, the Virginia Calculator. Thomas Fuller, great math formulator. Thomas Fuller, the Virginia Calculator. Born in 1710, he spent his life as a slave. But when it came to math, everybody would rave. His skills were second to none, and faster than anyone, he did it all in his head. It was never outdone. He could multiply huge numbers solely in his head. Don't need to check the answers. You could trust what he said. When he asked how many seconds in a year and a half, he answered in 2 minutes with no help on his behalf. Thomas Fuller, great math formulator. Thomas Fuller, the Virginia Calculator. Thomas Fuller, great math formulator. Thomas Fuller, the Virginia Calculator. At 17 miles, how many inches would that be? That'd be a simple question. But Tom Fuller, you see, for he was a genius. What a mind he must have had. When I think of slavery, it makes me real mad. Cause Thomas Fuller, great math formulator. Thomas Fuller, the Virginia Calculator. Thomas Fuller, great math formulator. Thomas Fuller, the Virginia Calculator. What an inspiration, someone to admire. To have such talent and no way to acquire an education or a job or life of his own. Just to think what he could do and what he must have known. Spent his life as a slave, and I'm sure he wanted more. I owe it to him, not to waste time or ignore the chances that I'm given. Opportunities galore. I can be anything if I let my mind soar. Thomas Fuller, great math formulator. Thomas Fuller, the Virginia Calculator. Thomas Fuller, great math formulator. Thomas Fuller, the